Hey everybody, welcome back. I want to do another video on something that's been coming up a lot more lately, and I think it has to do with the holiday season and people just generally out looking for jobs and things like that. But we're seeing a lot more job offer and recruitment type fraud presenting itself. I got this email a couple of days ago, and I've been meaning to make this video since because it's just a recurring thing. I get, a few times a month, somebody will reach out to me personally and be like, "Hey, I saw your name, you wrote an article about this, and I wanted to check in with you. Was this fraud?" When they think they're applying for a job at our company. And it's always frustrating to see because I feel for these people, right? They're out there, they're looking for work, they want to work for a good company, and they're doing their best to get those jobs, and they end up talking to scammers, and it sucks. But you can kind of see they basically say, "Hey, I was looking for this job on this job site. I'm not going to mention the job site, I have it crossed out. And I thought I had found one, and they reached out to me when I updated my profile, but they wanted to jump on a Zoom call, and that was kind of weird. But we did, and when I got on the call, there was no real interview, but they did ask for things like information about me. They wanted my email accounts, they wanted my bank information, they wanted all this stuff about me, and they said I had the job. And then they went on to do things like say, "Hey, we're going to send you a check, but you need to buy this hardware," and all that stuff. And ultimately this person figured out that all these red flags meant this was fraud, and they were emailing to just make sure of that, right? Like, there's always that last bit of hope because they need a job. The job market is rough right now for a lot of people. We're rolling into the holiday season. Money is tight, everything is more expensive. So these fraudsters are preying on people who are just trying to make their lives better, and that really sucks. So I wanted to address this a little bit and send out kind of a reminder about job fraud and job recruitment scams and things like that. So let's talk about them a little bit. You know, the signs of a job recruitment fraud are pretty simple. They're tough because you really want things to be good. You want good things for yourself and your family, but when things are too good to be true, they usually are, right? Um, Job offers tend to be very appealing when you're looking at scams. They're going to be things that are paying well above the average for what the role typically is. They have really great benefits. They might have work from home and remote. Lots of people want those kinds of jobs currently. So they look really, really appealing. Um, they'll have a pretty low bar to entry, honestly. Like, they might say, "Hey, no experience needed," because they're trying to attract as many people possible, right? You're not going to get those people in there if you're like, "Well, you're going to need a master's degree and 25 years of experience." No, they're going to say, "We have this great, well paying job for you. You can do it from home. It'll have a flexible schedule, awesome benefits. And guess what? It's entry level. We want you to apply. Come and join us," right? They want to get as many people into this net as possible. Um, if you kind of go into it, you'll find out there's no real interview. Oftentimes people come up with these and they're like, "Hey, I was offered a job. And once they saw my resume, they said it was great." Or, "I was supposed to get an interview, but they actually just had me fill out a questionnaire. Then they made me an offer." Like, they skip all the parts of an interview and of the hiring process. So if you find yourself in a position where someone's offering you a bunch of money, they've never actually spoke to you, you didn't meet face to face. It doesn't have to be in person. Like, there are legitimate companies doing remote interviews over things like Zoom or Teams or whatever internal video conferencing they use. But usually you're going to get on a face to face, real time, synchronous communication type situation. It's not going to be email only. It's not going to be via just text or chat. People who are hiring want to talk to you. They want to hear your voice. They want to know that you're real. They want to see you generally because we want to see what the people we're working with are going to be like, and what their body language looks like as they answer questions. Interviewing is as much about communication as it is knowledge gathering, so they want to understand those things typically. So if you feel like, "Hey, this person's being a little weird, they don't really want to talk to me," or they start really pushing for things like WhatsApp or other methodologies that maybe are out of band for a really large company, right? If you're applying for large companies, they're just kind of weird. They may not be definitive things that they're wrong, but they're definitely red flags, right? You got to look at all the pieces kind of together. And then when they start making weird requests, they say, "Hey, we're going to need you to pay for your own background check if you want to come work for us," or, "Hey, you need to pay us a processing fee for your application," or, what, "You need to buy all this training material up front, and then if you complete this training, then maybe we'll hire you." If they're asking for information about like your bank and all that stuff, yes, direct deposit, those kinds of things, an HR department will ask for banking information, but most of the time you're entering it via a payroll tool or something like that, and it's after you've started work, right? Like, you don't tend to fill out all that stuff 3 weeks in advance right after an interview. That's stuff that happens after your start date generally, because they want to make sure you get through your background check before they hire you and all that stuff. So, if they're asking for weird information or really personal information, if they're like, "Hey, we need your social security number right now," we don't need that kind of stuff typically. That comes post hire generally. So just be like aware of what kind of information you're providing to people, um, when they're asking for it. And if it feels really uncomfortable or really weird, especially for like an average job, yeah, be leery of it. If you're applying for some, top secret clearance and some other stuff, yeah, things are going to be a little bit different. How investigations work and all that changes. This video is not for you. The job scammers probably aren't after that market. This is for the, everyday, everybody's kinds of jobs. All right. So what's the goal? Like a lot of times we sit there and we're like, what does somebody have to gain by tricking someone into a job, right? There's two main kind of situations right now. Advanced fee scams are the big one where they suck you in and they say, great, you have this job, but you need to go to this website and order this desktop. And that's going to be your work computer, and then we're going to send you a check to cover that. When you go and order it, it's going to be from a website that they set up, and you're never going to get your money, right? You're going to pay them, they're going to take your money. You're never going to get a computer, and they're definitely not sending you a real check. Or they'll say, hey, go ahead and buy some stuff and we'll send you a check. And then they'll say, hey, can you actually just send a little bit of that check back, right? They're going to send you a bad check or a fraudulent check, or pay you with some stolen methodology and try to get you to send them real money back to clean up that money for them. That kind of stuff. There's a bunch of different versions of this advanced fee scam, but it's always about getting you to pay them something to work for this fictitious company or this fake job. And then there's just plain old phishing, right? They want your banking information. They want your social security number. They want information they can use to leverage an additional scam later, steal your identity, those kinds of typical things. We definitely have seen things where they ask for your bank information. And what I actually replied back to that person was, I was like, hey, be really careful. You mentioned that you gave them a couple different email addresses and like your bank. So if you use those email addresses at that bank, like those two pieces of information alone, maybe not the end of the world. But for example, if you had the same password uh, for those email addresses used as an account on another website that had been compromised as you're using on your bank, now the bad guy can take those email addresses, look at previous password dumps, and see if it was involved in a breach somewhere else, and then try your bank account, and then from there they can work on stealing your money. But also, they can just put you on a call list for another scam later. Maybe, in a week, they call you back and pretend to be your bank, right? They say, hey, yeah, is this so and so? We have your email address is blah, blah, blah. Can you confirm that's you? Great, now. And then they go into whatever their scam or their spiel is. So it's about collecting these little pieces of information that together they can use to leverage a future scam. When even though on their own they might seem kind of innocent, right? Like, yeah, I mean, I told somebody my bank, I'm not, that's not the end of the world. But with other information about me, if I gave them my social security number, the information your bank usually verifies who you are with, that's problematic. Now they can contact the bank and pretend to be you and make changes and those kinds of things. So you really got to just be cautious about, what you're telling people, how the information might be used in combination, and look for those kind of indirect ways of messing with people after these types of scams. So what do you do to protect yourself, right? Check the details. No business, no large company, no legitimate company generally is going to be shooting you an email from a Gmail account to hire you. There's probably some small mom and pop shops out there that don't have domains. If you're watching this video, go set up a legitimate domain, please. It costs a few bucks a month. You can sign up for Office 365 real quick. Solve part of this problem for us. Like, we don't want people used to using Gmail accounts or Hotmail or whatever the free services that are out there as part of a normal hiring process. Go legitimize yourself on the internet. That's part of it. And if you're looking at this and you're getting an email offer from a big company and they're using a Gmail account, it's fake, right? Look at the sender's information. Does it match up with who they say they are? A lot of these fraudsters aren't that careful. They don't care. They're in this for, the quick wins and the volume. They're not there to be perfect. So if they say, hey, my name is Bob, and their email address is like georgew@gmail.com, it's weird. Think through that kind of stuff, right? Why are they're probably using a stolen Gmail account, so their name's not going to match. Check their LinkedIn. Is that the contact information that person actually would use? Contact the company, if it's even a real company, right? Is it a real company that exists? If it is, give them a call. Like I said, I get this kind of email pretty regularly because people are validating, right? They're saying, hey, I saw you were a contact related to this company. Can you verify this is me? And, I'll reach out and I'll be like, hey, HR, are you talking to these people? And they'll say, no, definitely not. And the fraudsters are getting smart, right? Like, they'll go on our company's LinkedIn. They'll look for people in the HR department. They'll use those names as part of their fraud. So they'll even say, hey, I'm talking to so-and-so in your HR department. And it's like, yeah, that's a real guy. let me go ping them. I can message them really quick and see if this is legitimate, and if not, tell you so. But contact the company, contact their HR department, shoot them an email, check on their website. Is that job even listed as an open thing on their careers page? If it's not, it's probably not legitimate. But again, even if it is, get in touch with the company to verify. And just be cautious. Like, sharing your information is something you should always be cautious about for all the reasons I've already mentioned. Once it is confirmed to be a real company, yeah, we're going to give sensitive information to HR, right? We got to give them copies of our IDs and all this stuff. But up until that point, you should just be skeptical until you know they're real, until you can validate it to a real level of comfort. You're talking to the right people. You've seen them, you've met them in person most of the time. Remote's making this a little harder, but you've jumped onto legitimate communication platforms. You've emailed their real corporate identities and accounts. Then maybe share that personal information in a secure manner. But that's it. Be careful out there. I know a lot of people are looking for career jumps. They're looking to improve their lives. Keep doing that. Don't let this kind of stuff discourage you, but be cautious, be safe out there. The worst thing is when innocent people just trying to be better, end up getting damaged by fraudsters and scammers. And I hate that stuff. So if you ever have a question, if there's something I can ever do to help, don't hesitate. Please reach out. But until then, be careful. Tell your friends and family to be careful. And, happy holidays.